Guys, this is Phil. He spoke at the last reclaim. He will probably introduce himself better than I can introduce him. So, all yours, mate.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I know you can hear this loud American voice. Can you hear me?
Yes!
Again, I'll be reading from my little transcript here. G'day all, my name is Phil. I'd like to thank you all for your time and coming out here and helping us make a stand in your community and actually as to what happens in it. Now, to give you a little bit of information about myself, I'm actually an apostate of Islam. For those of you who don't know what an apostate is, it's someone who's had to live the religion, whether forcibly or willingly. So I'm actually here to shed a little bit of light, because we already had a few people give an amazing introduction, amazing information as to the legalities of this thing across the road. I'm actually here to shed a little bit of light.
Behind you.
Oh, behind me. Yeah, that one. As you can tell, I'm directionally inclined, or not directionally inclined. What am I? Yeah, that too. But I'm actually here, being an apostate, I'm actually here to shed a little bit of light as to what actually happens inside a mosque. To understand what we're protesting, we have to define what a mosque is. It is vitally important to understand, again, as I said, what it is. A mosque is not like a church or a temple. All mosques are modeled after the first mosque established by Muhammad at Medina, which was the seat of government, a command center, a court, a military training center, and an arms depot. Mosque leaders today raise religious decrees, enforce Islamic doctrine, monitor conduct, punish transgressors, and command actions, including requirements to enforce jihad. In light of this, we need to understand that a mosque is much more than a church. So we also need to ask ourselves, why are there so many mosques being built? And why do mosques have capacities that further exceed the Muslim community that they are in? So, what we also need to understand is, touching on the military doctrine of Islam, that the former Prime Minister of Turkey, Erdogan, understood its nature when he said, "A mosque is our barracks, the domes are our helmets, minarets are bayonets, and the faithful are our soldiers." This is what your council is currently allowing in your neighborhood. Normally, this would be enough to stop the building of a mosque in its tracks, knowing what they're trying to raise. But no. Allowing a mosque in your area, which is presumably a Muslim minority area, you allow the growth of an enclave, allowing for the pandering of Islamic values that are in direct conflict with Australian law and values. There are currently 8 mosques in South Australia, according to SouthAustralia.com and its tourism board, but there are multiple Islamic societies that are not operating as mosques. Your council members, they represent every single one of you, for all intents and purposes, that are meant to represent you, are allowing the destruction of Australian values by allowing this monstrosity to be built. Now, we've sat here and we've talked about the social implications, but we also need to understand some of the financial implications that you are paying for. We look at Sydney's largest Muslim school, Malek Fahd, has been ordered by the federal government to pay back $9 million after an investigation. After an investigation that the Australian revealed millions were funneled from the school to the AFIC, or Australian Federation of Islamic Councils. Also, following a police raid on the Australian Islamic College, its founder, Abdullah Saad Magar, was found guilty of fraudulently claiming millions for the state and federal governments, and he was actually jailed for 3 years. This is what you're paying for.
Not long enough. Treason.
I wish they would have. Now, as I said before, I'm an apostate, and I want to shed a little bit of light as to not only what goes on in a mosque, but what Islam's endgame is, as someone who has seen it from the inside out. Islam is a religion, for want of a better term, that calls for a worldwide ummah, one nation, regardless of where you are from, where they are from, or the current values of where they stand. These community centers call for the spread of Sharia law to be above the law of the land. This very law is actually what stopped Saudi Arabia from signing a little document called the UDHR 1948, or Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which has allowed and has declared the universal freedoms of you, myself, and everyone standing here. The reason why it was not signed was due to the fact that it was in direct conflict with Sharia law. Now, keep in mind, this was from the House of Saud, Saudi Arabia, the keepers of Islam, where its birthplace. And they said that human rights have no place in Islam. That is what needs to be understood. That is what this building will preach, and that is what is being fed into your community. Understand that this is just the beginning. Once the Muslim population numbers start to grow, there'll be more mosques being built to accommodate, more imams, and more calls for jihad, fatwas issued, and more pressure on the surrounding community. I don't believe I need to remind you of the events in Garland, Texas. That I don't need to remind you of what happened in Paris, or what happened right here in this lucky country itself, when we lost 2 Australians to Islam. Not to one man, not to a lone wolf, but to Islam.
Yeah, right.
I'm here to tell you, as someone who's experienced this, speak up and stand up. Don't fall victim to the legal jargon and technicalities. Let your voice be heard. Let your council members understand that we don't want a mosque, not here, not now, and not ever. Yeah! Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen.